My path to serious wealth all started from a video game, which I was addicted to from ages 13 to 15. When I was growing up, I used to play a game called Habbo Hotel. Now, it was a great game to play. It was like a training boot camp for ruthless anarcho-capitalism. Starting with nothing, over time, I was able to create virtual wealth, which later on turned into real wealth, which I was able to leverage into other opportunities and grow into much greater wealth, which I am benefiting from today. Now, this is worth listening to because everyone, if you have a phone or a computer, the chances are you're a gamer. You might be playing on a game like Fortnite or some kind of game, or Minecraft, and that is wealth. That is something that you can sell and leverage towards making more money, believe it or not. My game for me was Habbo Hotel. The great thing about it was that it had an economy, and what I did was that in the game there are these reverse pyramid schemes in a way where they're called agencies. The goal is that you pay to work there, but there is a free way that you can rise through the ranks. And the advantage of working in an agency is that you can sell the right to power over your subordinates. People like to pay for that power because, in a sense, it's like an investment where you too can sell ranks, which the primary objective is just to keep selling rank or power or position in that virtual company. So I was able to build up in-game currency, furniture as they call it in the game, and with this virtual currency it is sold on a secondary market, or a grey market as they call it, which can be sold for real life currency. And because I had built up so much virtual wealth in this game, I was able to actually sell my account, which had Habbo Club, which is this premium membership, so there's value in the account, but there's also the virtual currency which I could trade out and sell for PayPal. So when I was getting sick of the game, that's what I did. I was able to cash out of the game, but I've also sold a Minecraft account previously. Something that you could do if you're grinding out a game, if your game that you play has a decent economy, and there's quite a few games that actually do have a decent economy. Like there's a game called Axie Infinity, which is played by a lot of Asians, and they're able to sell the in-game currency of Axie Infinity as an example for real life currency. Even if you have no money, you actually do have an asset to your name. Even if it's not worth that much, there's something you could always sell. Please like, comment and subscribe. That's one of the first ways I made real money as a teenager of my own doing. So I want you to think about, do you have something that you could sell that you do on the internet? Do you have a good Instagram account, just an example, with a decent amount of followers? Or do you have an active Discord server? Do you have a video game account that you could perhaps monetize, or in-game assets that you could sell and just put towards growing real wealth by selling that virtual wealth? Now, all of the ways that I've made money is basically all online as a teenager. So just sitting at home on my computer was how I was able to make money. So it is possible to make money with nothing, and start with nothing and grow it to something. Even though it's not going to be a lot objectively, it's not going to be $1 million, but still having a few hundred to a few thousand is a decent amount of money for a teenager. The second way I made money as a teen was that I created these ebooks, or courses as they call them, and what I did was that I sold them on the forums for just, $5-10. I was getting paid in PayPal, Bitcoin. If I had never sold the Bitcoin, the prices of those books would be worth like the equivalent of $150 to $200 now, which is just ridiculous. But again, that's leveraging a free thing, social media, creating a document on Google Drive, downloading it as a PDF and then uploading it to a website where it automatically gives out the file in exchange for payment. There's quite a few services like that. It's not just Shopify, but dedicated services or landing pages for accepting payments for these books. Now, I'm not going to say that these are great books, they're only like 5 pages, guides on how to do things, but again, it's creating something out of nothing. It's certainly possible to do that. Now, forums are a lot less popular, but you can still perhaps sell on Discord. You could, Facebook groups. You can always use TikTok to advertise an opportunity or a reason to buy your book. Again, these are all free ways. You do not have to make a serious investment or even pay anything to make some money in return. Now, I only made a few $100s from that. I found it to be a good alternative source of income for doing nothing. It's something I did from, I'd say 15, so around 2016ish, was that I speculated on Bitcoin. I only bought, maybe $30, $40 at the time. So we're talking 2016, like mid 2016. And I speculated on a few coins. I didn't really make that much money trading, but leading on to my next point, what I did to go from 40 to about 500 New Zealand dollars, or 0.6 Bitcoin at the time, which would be worth 110,000 New Zealand dollars today, was just gambling at 15 years old. Now, I don't recommend that, but I used to gamble on a website called Bustabit, and I used the martingale strategy. Now, I'm just talking about what I did, and I do not recommend that people under 18 start gambling. But again, it's savviness, taking advantage of something that I could do, even if I do not condone it. Another thing that I was lucky to take advantage of, by virtue of my parents doing it for me, was that in New Zealand we have this savings scheme called KiwiSaver, which is just retirement savings in a house deposit savings scheme. Tax advantage savings account, essentially. But for a while, the government was paying everyone $1,000 into their account for signing up to that account, regardless of age. So, luckily, my mum signed me up into that account in about 2012ish for $1,000, which was invested into the stock market. So, the entire 2010s were quite good for stock market growth, as you would imagine. So that not only started out as 1,000, but grew to about $1,800 by, I'd say, 2019 when I turned 18, just for doing nothing, which is pretty good. But the moral of that story is that you have to take advantage of free things available to you. There's always something free for you to take advantage of, whether it's welfare, whether it's a government scheme, or perhaps a sign-up bonus on the internet. Speaking of which, I also took advantage of a sign-up bonus from a bank called Rabobank. They were giving out, I'd say, $50 for signing up and putting a bit of money into an account. And they love to send out this little remote thing, a little two-factor authentication thing. So that's pretty funny. When I was about, I'd say, 10 or 11, my parents were checking the mail, and in the mail was something addressed to me. Again, I was 10 or 11 at the time, and I had won a cheque for $50, and this is not a scam, but I did some kind of competition thing, so I was putting in my details online, obviously, entering competitions, and I had won this money, which is just putting yourself out there, shooting the S, as they say, taking advantage of all the free things out there. Even if you don't win one, you've got to try, just keep pushing and pushing. It's just with competitions, it's just about scale and putting yourself out there. And it's not something that I would do now, because it's a waste of my time. But if you're starting with nothing, a lot of these methods are good to do. When I was about 16, when I was in New Zealand at the time, 2017ish, I'd bought this tablet off a website called GearBest. It's now closed down, but it's like AliExpress in a way. I'd bought this Chinese tablet, had run Windows on it, and it also did Android, I'm pretty sure. It's actually a pretty good tablet, and I'd bought it new for about, I want to say 200 New Zealand, but give or take. Later on, in about 2018, we'd moved to Australia, and I had the opportunity to buy a MacBook, but I didn't want to have all this technology. I didn't want to, have two computers. So what I did was that I sold this tablet on Facebook Marketplace for about 300 to 350 Australian dollars. So I made about $100 to $150 just from selling a new item that I'd bought. I'd sold it for more than it was worth at MSRP prices. So just because you buy something new does not mean that it's going to go down. Others might see value in what you're buying. It could be cheaper than the local alternatives being sold in a store. So I see items as basically a piggy bank. Like my laptop, it's a MacBook, M1 MacBook. I don't just see it as a laptop that's going to be worth $0. It's worth quite a bit of money on the used market, about 900 New Zealand dollars, I'd say, because it has decent specs. I think it's 1TB hard drive, 16 gigs RAM, M1 MacBook here. They have great battery, but it's worth thinking about the things that you have that you are no longer using. Your items do have value, even if they might be a bit slow to sell. Could be worth selling it just to raise some capital. Something I've never done well with though is those point surveys where you just answer a few questions and they give you points, and then later on you can get a gift card for a supermarket or something, like a $10, $20 gift card for 2,000 points. I've never done well with those. They just seem to be a waste of time unless you fit a niche audience. Now I just want to reiterate that with all these methods I started with zero money. I put no dollar investment into them, but I was able to take out of them and make profit and put it into my savings account, which later benefited me for starting my own reselling business and expanding it more until my current point of wealth. But the fact of the matter is that the first few $100s you make is the hardest of them all. Once you get the ball rolling, I think it is a lot easier to keep making money. Now, because I'm decently invested in the stock market, a large part of my net worth, I can go up and down thousands of dollars in a single day, especially with this current stock market. Money that took me months to earn as a teenager, I now go up and down the same amount in a single day. Even earning a single dollar is probably the hardest one of them all. If you can make a single dollar, you can make 5, 10, 100, 1,000. It's that $1 that is the hardest one of all. Now the principle at play here is basically how many buy buttons do you have, buy now buttons. The more you do, the more you offer, the better chance you have at making money. So what are some of the principles at play here? Reselling, taking advantage of free money opportunities out there, whether it's sign up bonuses or welfare or government assistance of any kind. It's turning games and the internet into online making opportunities. It's taking advantage of social situations to make money. If there are people out there in your vicinity, in your group, there's a chance to make money. Having a social media or a forum or a Reddit presence is important for making money. Not a large presence, but just being active on those platforms is itself a chance to make some money. Now in some respects I do think that not getting a job and just working minimum wage was the hard option, but I've learned a lot just learning how to make money on the internet, and I know that I can never truly go backwards in life. There's always going to be an opportunity as long as I have the internet for me to make some money. Even though I probably made less than if I did 20 hours or 40 hours in a minimum wage job after school every week. I've learned a lot more than just having to trade my time for money. Now a lot of people when they're starting out, they get their first $1,000 saved and they just immediately think that investing it in the stock market is the best thing you can do. But the returns you get from the stock market in the S&P 500, 8% per year on $1,000, $80 per year, less than $2 a week. It's not worth doing it. There's a lot of better ways you can make money, higher return ways at lower levels of net worth that'll grow your net worth, let's say to $5,000 or $10,000, which is better for getting started with investing than 1,000. Now what did I do with this money once I had earned it from all these sources? What I usually just did was bank it. I had my KiwiSaver, which was invested in the stock market, but the money that I had made otherwise outside of it, let's say $2,500 to $3,500 over the course of 2016-ish, at 15, all online, was just saved. So when I turned about 18, I had a net worth of about $5,000, which is a great springboard into growing it to even more greater wealth, which I benefit from today. Now it's important to know that what worked for getting me from $0 to 5,000 isn't going to be the same as getting me from 5,000 to 10. I've given up on a lot of these methods, but I still think they would work with a few modifications. So don't just copy what I've said word for word. Put a spin on it, think about it before you start acting. But it is possible to make money on the internet with no money, basically. As long as you have an internet connection, you can make money.